In section 2.4, we will look at composition of functions. The goal of this lesson is to complete the indicated function operations. Function composition is the act of applying one function to the result of another function. When we use function notation, we can see that in two different formats. One says f, and then we have parentheses around g with parentheses around x. And the way that we say that is f of g of x. It can also be written, and it means the same thing, when we see it written like this. And again, we read that f of g of x. Either way, when we start to do our function operations here, we will always start with the inside term, so inside the parentheses here, or when I'm looking at it this way, I am going to start with this part, and then I will do the outer part second. So in these examples, we're going to use the given functions f of x is equal to x plus 3 and g of x is equal to 2x minus 1 to find the value of the following. In question number 1, we're looking at f of g of 4. Now again, as I said in the last part, we are going to start with the inner function. So we're going to look at g of 4. And when we go to do g of 4, we are only looking at the function for g of x and plugging in a 4 everywhere we see the x. So we end up getting 2 times 4 minus 1, which is going to give me 8 minus 1, therefore 7. Now I can do the outer part of this. So I have taken care of g of 4. This turned into a 7. So now I'm going to do f of 7. And for that, I'm only looking at this function. And now I'm replacing its x with a 7. So I do 7 plus 3 here, which gives me 10. And that's going to be my final answer. Now, number 2, the notation looks a little different, but again, we start with the second or like the inner part first. So here I'm starting with f of negative 2, which means I look at f of x first. So when I go to plug that negative 2 in, I'm going to have negative 2 plus 3. As I combine that, I end up getting 1. Now I look at the outer function, and this is going to be g of what we just got. So when I do g of 1, I end up going up to the function for g of x. I do 2 times 1 minus 1. I end up getting 2 minus 1, which is 1, and that's our final answer. In the next examples, we're given that f of x is 2x squared minus x plus 1, and g of x is given as negative x minus 5. When we find the values here, again, we're going to start with the second part in this notation, g of negative 1. So I go up to the function for g of x, and everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug negative 1 in parentheses. So we want to be careful here. We make sure we realize that that negative is in front of the x. We're plugging our negative 1 in for x. So this becomes a negative 1 minus 5. Well, the negative 1 becomes a positive 1, and 1 minus 5 is going to give us negative 4. Now we've taken care of this. So now we're going to do f of negative 4. So that means we come up to the first function over here, and we're going to do 2 times negative 4 in parentheses squared minus a negative 4 plus 1. It looks like this. Now it's important that we realize that we cannot multiply 2 times negative 4 first. When we're thinking about order of operations here, we need to take care of inside parentheses first. Well, there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. The next thing we want to look at is the exponents. So at this point, I'm going to do negative 4 squared. Again, that means negative 4 times negative 4. That's going to turn into positive 16. I'll multiply 16 and 2 in a minute. This minus a negative 4 is going to become plus 4, and then I still have plus 1. So at this point, I have 2 times 16 plus 4 plus 1. Now if I do 2 times 16, I get 32 plus 4 plus 1, or plus 5, and that is going to give me a final answer of 37. For example 4, again, we're going to start here with f of 2. So when I go up to the function for f of x, I'm plugging in a 2 everywhere I see an x. So that will look like this. I've got 2 times 2 squared minus 2 plus 1. And again, you should notice that I'm plugging everything in parentheses. So here when I do 2 squared, I'm going to get 4. And then I'll still have 2 times 4. Right here, there's really no need for those parentheses, so I can leave that as minus 2 and then plus 1. When I multiply these, I'm going to get 8 minus 2, which I'm at 6, plus 1, and it's going to give me 7. Now from there, I work on the outer function. So now I'm ignoring f of x and I'm only looking at g of x. I'm going to do g of 7 now. So when I come up here, again, I have to leave that negative there. Then I'm plugging a 7 in parentheses, and then subtracting 5. So now I have negative 7 minus 5, which ends up giving me negative 12. Your homework tonight is in Delta Math, and you're going to do a lesson on composition of functions.